Today we're reading from the book of Armageddon. This is in the series of the Left Behind series. I'm going to be reading chapter 1 today, and here we go. The chopper shuddered and stayed on course. Thought we were goners, Rayford said. I never get used to that. Where did that missile go? Right through us, as usual. Nothing unusual about that, Sebastian said. He scanned the horizon. Over there. Rayford saw a plume of black smoke about a mile south of Petra. They may have hit their own people, George said and got on his radio. Big dog, 1 to southern perimeter, over. Mac here, dog. What was that? Just missed us. What did it do? Found one of their transports just beyond the equestrian line. Had to have some casualties. They look pretty exercised. Wait till they find out it was friendly fire. Attention all DEW operators, open fire immediately, George ordered. Within seconds, the black rim of horses and horsemen surrounding Petra disintegrated and steeds charged away in all directions. A masterpiece, George, Rayford said. Well done. Some of that horse meat is probably well done, hey? Ray, did I hear you mention my wife's name when we were about to buy it? Guilty. What's that about? I told her I'd look out for you as much as was possible. And that's your idea of looking out for me? As much as was possible. What say we bounce back up and see if we can get them to shoot us again? Maybe take out some more of their munitions on the other side. Not funny, Rayford. Every time Buck leaped over the heads of the crowd, he caught sight of Tyson being borne along on the shoulders of zealots. He wanted to scream at them to put him down, but no one would be able to hear him above the din. What were they trying to do? Get him killed? Maybe they saw him as a hero. Maybe they thought by getting him to the head of the pack, he would inspire the troops. Regardless, it was insanity. Buck lowered his shoulder and bullied his way through until he was almost up to Tyson. He bulled his way through, not bullied, until he was almost up to Tyson. Hey, he shouted. Hey, put him down. He will lead us to victory. He is our leader. Well, he's my responsibility, and you're going to get him killed. Buck grabbed Tyson's ankle, which slowed the crowd, and as they lost their grip, Tyson tumbled head first. Buck dived beneath him to break his fall, and now both of them were being trampled. It was provincial, however, as Unity Army troops had scaled the wall above Herod's Gate and opened fire. Rebels fell all around Tyson and Buck, heads slamming the ground, blood splattering. Buck wrapped his arms around Tyson's head and buried his own, waiting out the fusillade. With the zing of bullets ricocheting and explosions of the pavement around him, he tensed for the killing round that would hit his or Tyson's head, or neck, or spine. But they were spared. When the burst let up, Buck dragged Tyson to his feet and hustled him toward the legendary healing pool of Bethesda. I was not hit, Cameron. No need for healing. Millimeters from death, and the rabbi jokes. Rayford and George landed and were racing down to George's post via ATV. They've got to retaliate, Rayford said. What form will they take, and what do we do? They've got mortar launchers in range. I want to see if the riders can persuade their horses to return. If they can't, that's going to be chaos. The key is keeping them out of the sick. I don't want one of them thinking he can infiltrate this place. You'd think Carpathia would have learned his lesson. Imagine how much money he wasted trying to get us here, Rayford said. Yeah, but every military commander thinks he's better than anyone else. So whoever's in charge of this offensive is going to have to learn for himself. The DEWs and his own missile should have taught him something. Should have, George said, but you can bet he'll try everything in his arsenal before he gives up. What would be the hardest to defend against? Sheer numbers. When they start rolling this way, we're going to be chased back inside. Where? So far, it's been safe. True, but retreating is not my idea of warfare. That missile was God's protection. But wasn't it fun to attack with the directed energy weapons? A young woman gestured frantically from a small cave like structure near the pools, and Buck hustled Tyson to her. There is room for two more, she said. As they pushed their way into safety, Buck realized about 20 others were in the echoing chamber. Is it the rabbi? Someone called out. I am here, Tyson said. Praise God. When do you expect Messiah? Actually, I expected him about 5 minutes ago, or maybe I should say he should have been expecting me. I want to believe he is coming to save the day and rescue us. He is, if you are ready, Tyson said. I am ready. I just want to be alive when he gets here. So do I, Tyson said, but we did not choose the best place to ensure that, did we? What is the talk of Messiah? Someone grumbled. We have been waiting for him to rescue us for generations. Tyson ran through his teaching as fast as he could. 3 of the terrified men and the young woman prayed to accept Jesus as Messiah, but the skeptics did not. When he comes, he said, I will believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed, Tyson said. The gunfire suddenly ceased. Buck peered out past the woman. Was this it? Had Messiah returned and saved the day? Young men raced by, screaming, We have won! We have won! They are pulling back. The gates are secure. Wait, it's a trap. Don't believe it. They are just regrouping. Buck and Tyson's bunker mates piled out and warily looked around, weapons at the ready. I don't like it, someone said. They have bombs that could annihilate us. What are they doing? Toying with us. We should go to the offensive, open the gates and attack, kill them while they're retreating. They are not retreating. This is a trap. They want us to open the gates. We should regroup while they are regrouping. Be ready for them. There was a lull at Petra, too, and Rayford took a call from Mac McCullum. Can you and Razor spare me a minute, George? Rayford said. Mac wanted me to come and see something. It was half an hour's ride by all-terrain vehicle to get to Mac, and when Rayford arrived, Mac was studying the enemy through powerful field glasses. You know they can see us plain as day by now, Ray, just like we can see them. What are they waiting on? He handed Rayford the binoculars. Looks like they've got most of the horses under control. That must have been a mess, and I know, Ray, that our DEWs caused the stampede. But what's making them squirrely now? I don't get it. Rayford studied the enemy in the distance. It didn't appear it was as simple as horses being shy of where they had been burned. They weren't even close to that. It was more like the riders could not get the horses to do anything they wanted them to. It reminds me of a verse, Ray said. Something Tyson taught us. What was it? I don't recall. Want to ask him. I need to check in on him and Buck anyway. The silence was more than eerie. Buck and Tyson moved close to the wall by Herod's gate. Buck answered the phone and handed it to Tyson. Yes? Here too, Tyson said. I have the strange feeling it is the lull before the storm. Horses? Yes. Zechariah 12:4. In that day, says the Lord, I will strike every horse with confusion and its rider with madness. I will open my eyes on the house of Judah and will strike every horse of the peoples with blindness. You know, Mac, that may be what happened here too. As soon as Tyson was off the phone, people around him wanted to know what he was talking about. He told them, Let's check it out, one said. The rabbi believes the Unity Army is blind or mad. Could be, Tyson said. That is the only explanation I can think of for what is going on. Some of the younger men boosted each other and began climbing to reach the top of the wall. I see nothing. They're hiding, maybe. Rabbi, teach us some more. Buck looked to Tyson, who shrugged. That is why I came. If they want to listen, I want to preach. As soon as he began, curious crowds gathered again. And as Buck watched and listened, he was overcome with the privilege of being where he was and when it was. He sensed he could see Jesus at any time and Chloe. To hear God's man in God's place at God's time, what an unspeakable privilege. Scared? Of course he was. Wondering if Jesus would really come when he said he would. Not even a question. Buck couldn't wait. He just couldn't wait. Back with George, Rayford was out of ideas. Don't ask me, he said. If you want to fire the 50s, fire them. I know we could kill horses and men from this distance and take out a few of their vehicles, George said. But I also know that would bring return fire. I'm not concerned about inside the city, but I'm afraid we're vulnerable out here at the perimeter. What would be the purpose of going on the offensive when you know you can't win? Exactly. But I just hate sitting here waiting for stuff to happen. We need to make something happen. Fire a 50 or two, and plenty will happen. One of the young men on the wall interrupted Tyson, yelling, they're raising some kind of a giant bullhorn. Maybe they want to negotiate. You don't want to negotiate with the devil, Tyson said, and the crowd roared. Maybe he's offering a truce. A truce, Tyson said, is worth the character of the man on the other side of the table. Attention, people of Jerusalem. This is your supreme potent. Boo, boo. Our only potent is God of Israel. Shut up. Hear him out. Please listen, citizens. I come in peace. No, you come with weapons. Come, let us reason together. Listen. Shh. Listen to him. I come to offer pardon. I am willing to compromise. I wish you no ill. If you are willing to serve me and be obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword. I will rid myself of my adversaries and take vengeance on my enemies. I will turn my hand against you and thoroughly purge you. But it does not have to be this way, citizens of the global community. If you will lay down your arms and welcome me into the city, I will guarantee your peace and safety. This will be your sign to me. If at the count of 3 I hear silence for 15 seconds, I will assume you are willing to accede to my requests. A single gunshot into the air during that time will be your signal that you would rather oppose me. But I warn you, half of Jerusalem is in captivity already. The entire city could be overthrown easily within an hour. The choice is yours at the count of 3. But before Carpathia could enter the first number, thousands of weapons fired into the air, including Buck's and Tyson's. The enemy's attempt to control the horses and surround Petra was still not working. Rayford stood on a precipice and watched through binoculars as more Unity vehicles were deployed. The horizon was full of dust and smoke, and the mass of munitions and hardware looked like a black rolling mass, filling his vision and oozing toward him like lava. I'm going to let them advance only so far, George said. Then it's DEWs again and 50 calibers. Like trying to dam a tsunami with BBs, Rayford said. When the shooting stopped in Jerusalem, The ghostly silence returned. The One World Unity Army did not immediately attack, but Buck almost wished they had. The quiet was disquieting. He feared the next sound would be the proverbial freight train that tornadoes victims always mention, only this twister would consist of an unending horde of marauders who would stomp Jerusalem to dust. But if that's what it took to usher in Jesus, we'll bring it on. Strangely, the crowd wanted to hear more from Tyson, and Buck was impressed that the rabbi was ready. "It is not too late," Tyson cried. "Make your stand for Messiah now. Repent, choose, and be saved." And many did. Now even Sebastian seemed alarmed. The massive flow of horses, men, and weaponry advancing toward Petra was so enormous that as it spread and separated and filled in again, it blocked out the horizons and desert sands and the rocks. It was as if a cloud of locusts were blotting out the sun. No human could have imagined the scope of the enemy. They had somehow rallied, somehow overcome their madness and blindness, somehow broken out of their lull. And here they came. They flanned out and flanked Petra on all sides, slowly filling in as far as the eye could see. And while their front lines were still a mile or so from the perimeter, there was no end to the swarm. The eye could not reach the back of a column after column after column of millions strong that kept coming and coming and coming. And when they were in place, they merely stopped and waited for what was anybody's guess. But even when they stopped, there was no gap, no holes in their coverage, no end of their ranks. "That, Rayford," Sebastian said, "is just a whole lot of army. If every one of our weapons fired every one of its bullets, and each one was a flat out kill, we wouldn't put a dent in that wave. What do you think about riding out there about a half a mile and seeing if you can smoke a peace pipe with somebody?" "You watch too much TV, Captain. Seriously, how about another round of DEWs, Rays? See if we can push them back a bit." "If I thought they'd react like dominoes, I would. There really isn't far, there really isn't far for them to go because they'll run into their own replacements. Think we can get millions to stampede?" Rayford shook his head. "I wouldn't mind seeing what that would do to them. Maybe they wouldn't be so eager to get closer. But Ray, there's so many of them." Tyson was still holding forth when a sound like a bomb shook the area, and the people scattered for cover. Within seconds came the report that a second battering ram had penetrated the old city. This time the Unity Army had eschewed any gate and had broken through the northwestern wall of the old city and halfway between the Lion's Gate and the northeast corner. Hundreds of Jewish rebels raced toward the site, and to Buck's dismay, Tyson took off behind them, not even discussing options. Buck had no choice but to follow, trying to catch Tyson in the melee. But the time he caught up, the battle was in full swing, and amazingly, the Jews seemed to have the upper hand again. They were pushing the army back, and fierce hand-to-hand combat over the hattering ram almost saw it fall into rebel hands again. Just as the rebellion was forcing the army back through the wall, several on the Unity front lines turned and opened fire with high-powered automatic weapons, a grenade launcher, and what looked to Buck like a bazooka. He joined in returning fire, and the invasion was briefly squelched, and he was horrified to see more than 100 dead or wounded Israelis all around him. He wondered how close he had come to deadly fire himself. The hole in the wall seemed to be secure for the moment, so Buck turned to grab Tyson and pulled him back toward the Bethesda pool. But the rabbi was on his knees, feet tucked awkwardly beneath him. His Uzi had slipped off his shoulder, the strap near his elbow now. the weapon dragging. Buck grabbed the shoulder of his jacket to help him up, but when he pulled, Tyson pivoted on one knee and flopped to the pavement. Tyson, come on, let's go. But he was a dead weight. Are you all right? Buck demanded, turning Tyson's face toward him. I do not think so, friend. Are you hit? I am afraid I am. Where? I am not sure. Can you move? No. Can I move you? Please, you had better try. Buck didn't have time to even think about being fancy. He grabbed Tyson's weapon and strapped it on his left shoulder, then got around behind the rabbi's head and thrust both hands under his arms. He bent his knees and lifted, walking backwards, dragging the older man through the streets. He was grateful the shooting had stopped, if only temporarily. Buck was cramping, having pulled his friend about an eighth of a mile, but he didn't want to stop until they were safe in the little chamber he remembered at Bethesda. He kept looking behind him to make sure the way was clear, but when he turned back, he realized Tyson was also leaving a thick trail of blood. Buck stopped to rest and check Tyson. He hurried around and opened the man's jacket. There he found the source of blood. Tyson could not have been shot in the heart, or he would be dead already, but he had lost a lot of blood, which had flowed from near his sternum, down his belly, under his jacket, over his crotch, and into the street. Tyson was pale, and his eyes threatened to roll back in his head. Buck leaned close to hear his shallowing breathing. Stay with me, friend, he said. Let me go, Cameron. Find shelter. I could do worse than die in the streets of my beloved city. You're not going to die, Tyson. You're going to hang on to see the victory, all right? I wish. Don't wish. Work with me. Buck whipped off his jacket and his shirt, rolled up his shirt, and stuffed it into the wound. The hole was nearly the size of Buck's fist. I have to get you to shelter, he said. You up for a few more feet? I am feeling nothing anymore, Cameron. You go, please. I will not leave you here. Come, come. I will not be here long. We both know that. I'm taking you to the shelter. Do not do it for my sake, then for mine. Buck knew he was doing Tyson no good. The shirt popped out and a great mass of blood gushed. Tyson moaned. Life seemed to be escaping him. His eyes were watery and pale, his lips blue. He had begun to shake all over. Buck wrestled him into the shelter and tried staunching the blood flow again, but Tyson reached for him with weak, fluttering hands. He finally got hold of one of Buck's hands and pulled it toward him. Do not, friend. Please, it is too late. I don't want to lose you, Tyson. Come close, he whispered. Listen to me. He was rasping now, taking labored breaths between words. I can say, with Paul, I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. Tyson, don't. Stay with me. Cameron, because of Jesus, my wife and children, forever. Sebastian had ordered another round from the DEWs, and Rayford had to admit it was something to watch as the front line of the persuasive mass fell back in agony, and the ripple effect could be seen for miles. Razor had the 50 calibers ready in the event of a counterattack, but none came. They just made things weirder. The city of refuge, 1 million strong, sat like a pea in the middle of an ocean of enemies that seemed waiting to squash it. Rayford's phone chirped, and he saw on the readout it was Buck. Talk to me. Buck's voice was thick. He's gone. Tyson, hit in the chest. Nothing I could do. You need to get back here, Buck. We'll send somebody. They'll never get in, and I can't leave him. Buck, come on. He's gone. I hate it too. But like you said, there was nothing you could do, and certainly nothing you can do now. Nobody could get in here, and I can't imagine getting out. You all right? Didn't foresee this, frankly. Keep your phone handy. No sense doing anything foolish now. We've got to be very close to the end. Buck crossed Tyson's feet at the ankles. He closed his jacket over the death wound and pulled Tyson's hands together, interlocking the fingers at his waist. Buck smoothed Tyson's hair, closed his eyes, and took a last look at his face. You almost made it, friend, he said. He draped his jacket over Tyson's torso and face. Brandishing both Uzis now, he headed for Harrod's Gate, where two young rebels seemed to have a decent vantage point. It wasn't the safest spot, and it sure didn't fit Rayford's advice of not doing anything foolish, but Buck didn't know what else to do. Mac was on the phone from the other side of the perimeter. Rayford, if I was to ask Sebastian to lend you to us, you think that would be doable? He'd probably be glad to get rid of me. Let me ask. What's he need? George said. Mac, Sebastian wants to know what for. Don't want to say. That's not going to cut it with him. You know that. I'm supposed to tell him the truth. Never hurts. Mac whispered, I need somebody to talk to. Smitty's about 200 yards to the west, and Otto's driving me bats. Plus, for real, we could use some manpower here. Like I could use an ATV to check on my troops east and west. You got as many Carpathia troops out your way as we do back here. There's no end to them, Mac. I'm counting on Jesus real soon. But in the meantime, could you come? And that's the end of chapter 21. Next, we'll be reading chapter 22. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day.